you learn about music, and you learn songs that you haven't really heard, like South African music. We learned Alunde and Pakali Swing.
We learn a lot of stuff for our voices. We learn how to play all instruments we've never heard of. Or all weird instruments for fun to play.
Yeah. I used to do guitar with my cousin, but like I didn't learn as much as like I did it for 2 months with him, and I didn't one proper like note. And here in 3 weeks I've learned like 3. So.
Excellent. So you're learning together, learning from each other.
Yeah,
that's great.
Musical memory is of a fireplace at home in my parents' house, and it had a circle of tiles, which I associated with the Beatles' "Hey Jude." So every time I used to see it, I used to sing "Hey Jude" because my uncle used to play it at the time. So that's my very first musical memory. I was pretty young.
When I started in art school when I was 12, a nun across the road in Salesians tried to teach me how to play Silent Night. They were setting up a series of classes, so I could see her end game now. Like, this was September and she was trying to teach me how to play Silent Night on an acoustic guitar. I wasn't best pleased at the time. It was I wanted to learn how to play One Vision by Queen, like, you know, that joke isn't funny anymore by the Smiths, which were in the charts at the time. So I didn't last long in it. I went for about 4 weeks and no, this isn't for me at all.
Right, very good. So your first educational experience when it came to music wasn't overly positive?
No. I mean, like, I used to be sitting at home listening to all manner of records. I was kind of a little bit obsessive at that age, 11, 12, and I was determined I was going to learn to play something. So I still had, we're coming back to the acoustic guitar that I mentioned there, but my dad had gotten it restrung in Jackie Glynn's for me to do those lessons. So I just sat at home with it myself, and probably one string at a time, working out New Order riffs or Joy Division riffs or something like that. That's probably my grounding from there.
So you were self-taught, really?
You kind of had to be. Other than that, I mean, lessons were dear. It was the mid-80s, so it wasn't going to happen otherwise, you know.
Yeah, it was learning through others, and you know, like I had that first year where I went to Austin, and then after that, you know, it was a lot of, I'd meet guys and we'd talk and they'd show me a couple of little bits, and you know, you'd remember that, and that's what I did for many years, and then working with producers and other musicians in the studio, you know, you pick up little bits, and I figured then I started to write, like, especially the first 2 albums that we did. I just spent all my spare time writing, and that was a great kind of, just for me alone, that experience to learn what worked and what didn't. You know, a lot of people said to me, I know many people that have gone and done all the grades in music, and I wish I had the patience to do it, and it's a great thing. But a few of those guys have said to me, the one small advantage I had is that I didn't learn rules. There are, you know, the rules of music. So because of that, I just went off and did stuff badly, like in theory, but worked just out of pure, like, happy accidents and things like that. So both sides have their advantage. Like, there are many times I wish, you know, I've kind of fallen into doing production over the last kind of 5 or 6 years. And it's now, I wish I knew a bit more kind of the rules and how to read music and that. But, you know, you just, you do what you feel is right and you get by with that.
No music in school. It was really manual pursuits, you know, like football and hurling were big.
Well, I went to 2 secondary schools. The first secondary school that I went to, there was no music provision really. They didn't even know I could sing in the school. And then I went into transition year, and after transition year then I knew that I was going to make music my career, and I felt that it was important for me to pursue music as a subject for my Leaving Cert.
It is difficult, but once everybody's on the same page and buys into it, it can flow quite well. I have to say, one of the guiding kind of organisations for the whole Learning Hub project was Paul Partnership, and I suppose they kind of incubated this project at the very beginning, and the whole ethos of the Learning Hub from the very beginning was that it was a partnership organisation. We're a consortium of interested partners who are trying to address an issue, and the issue is educational disadvantage, social exclusion of young people. And I suppose in that sense what we're trying to do is use as many partners and resources as we can possibly find to address this issue. So people are invited to sit around the board table if that's the kind of partnership role they want to have, or else they can come and just offer their time, their energy, their resources, their expertise, their students. It could be a third level lecturer who has a whole class of students that they really want to connect up with us for a module of their course or whatever it is. So it is quite sophisticated. It gets to quite a sophisticated level on the day-to-day kind of practicalities of, say, how do we get science teachers of the future to come in and run classes in Science Hub? How do we get community music MAs to come in here and run a workshop? There's a lot of organisation that goes into all that. But at the end of the day, it's worth it, and everybody is a winner. I think once people realise everyone has something to gain out of the experience, it tends to flow, and we've very rarely had any hitches in terms of working in partnership.
I always come at music from a theatrical point of view. That's the way I've been trained. So I think if I had a big pot of money, what I would love to do is to open a children's theatre. Adults performing for children, but also children coming working on workshops, and music would be a huge part of that.
Similar to the Arc.
Very similar to the Arc. I was so inspired when I went to the Arc. I did a workshop there last year, actors performing for children, and it was fantastic. And while it was all quite acting based, I couldn't help but relate it to what it is. I work with children all the time now. I have about 300 students that I work with on a regular basis, and we're always trying out different projects and that kind of thing. So, it was a wonderful experience for me to see how that place works. So I would love to do something like that here. I just think it would be fantastic.
Well, I think like if it's a learning thing, I would. If you're teaching them music, make sure that you're teaching them something they're interested in. As like exactly what happened with me, it wasn't until I started learning songs that I liked. You buy books sometimes, and there's songs, there's your basics and they're there for a reason because they're easy to learn initially. But even at that, people's interest kind of wanders. You go, I don't want to sit there and learn something that means nothing to me. So I find that if you straight away you go, oh, what are you into, what do you like, and you kind of point them in that direction, then that their interest lasts a lot longer in it then, as opposed to, like with any lesson, like forcing something down into someone's face, and you go, we've all been there at school where there's that one lesson you dread every week, and it's like, I don't want to go there, like, and it's the same thing, but that kind of way. And we spoke about it earlier. To me, we started because we were into music and we wanted to enjoy it and have a bit of fun. and it still has to be fun. If that goes out of it, you know, we stopped doing the Cranberries thing back in 2003 because of the fact it just became not fun anymore. It was just a job that we all hated going to, and that was it. We realised, look, I don't want to be here to you, you know. You're just going through the motions, and when that aspect goes out of it a bit, you know, you just don't want to be there, like, you know. And I think that's between kind of making it enjoyable for people, make sure they still are doing it for the reasons they began, and also they're doing what they want to do musically, and not having to, you know, kind of bend to whatever lessons are going, you know. I think if you combine those together, that it'll kind of keep the interest there longer.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
I think one of the most important things from me when I've been learning was that group experience, being able to play as part of an ensemble, because in terms of music you learn so much by listening to other people, but also in terms of socially, the social skills that you're going to learn that are transferable to your own life. So I think whatever initiative is taken on board, I think it has to incorporate some sort of a group performing opportunity. I think, you know, it's important to have that individual attention, but I think unless you can apply what you're learning on an individual basis to some sort of group, you know, it's limiting the amount of learning that's going to take place.
Where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops, that's where you'll find me. Somewhere.
It's tempting, and at the same time, it's a tempting picture you're painting. At the same time, I don't know if I'm best qualified to provide the answer, but even just this fine institution that I'm sitting in here, this would have been, I'm thinking back to the Limerick Youth Service Centre that we went to and all that they were trying to do for us in the Oasis Club, as they used to call it now, but man, we'd nothing like this. More institutions like this would be brilliant, where kids maybe had access to some recording equipment, recording techniques, just an opportunity to work with professionals in terms of how to play better, how to make music better, how to look after your gear. Even this is lovely. You should see the state of my place. It's like a bomb hit it. If we could just provide environments where the young bloods coming up could maybe work around some older types who've been through the mill a little bit more. You know, education and experience is never a waste that way.
Exactly. So like a peer and mentor based learning.
Like the experience could be good to pass on.
Yeah,
you know, it could be useful to the ones coming after, basically. 1, 2. I know I often seem excessively orderly, it's just the way that I am. We're in a place where we needed some space, and all of my gears in the van, infatuation faded and passion jaded, are in and of themselves no excuse for letting the driveway gate swing loose. You being a slacker and me being your stacker of books and clothes and papers has led me to neatly load out and be off and leave you to your various vapors. So buy a new broom and air that front room, and heed these words as I bidded you, and know they're soaked in truth when I say the wheelie bin goes out every other Friday, but the green recyclable and brown compostable can go out every week. Come a day you Friday off and sleep on, I wouldn't bother, they'll have been and gone. I'd swear they're up and about before the birds